sandy shores of Durban, where I'll bring you all the glitz, glam, and happenings from the world of showbiz.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Hi everyone, welcome to WION Live Broadcast with me, Susan Tehrani in New York City. First, let's get you up to speed with this hour's headlines before we go straight into our first story. The Israeli military says it's carrying out a precise mission in Gaza's Nasser hospital. IDF says that it has credible intelligence that Hamas is holding hostages at the hospital. Ukraine rushes additional soldiers to the embattled eastern town of Avdiivka, surrounded by three sides by Russian forces, where the military says the situation is extremely critical. A moonlander built by a private company was launched from Florida early on Thursday on a mission to conduct the first U.S. lunar touchdown in more than half a century, and the first by a privately owned spacecraft. The back-to-back storms that lashed the U.S. Northeast in January were not an aberration. Scientists sound a warning. Worse storms, more frequent and ferocious, are in store for the United States. Japan has unexpectedly fallen into a recession after its economy shrinks for a second quarter due to anemic domestic demand. And the Tiger is back on the green. 15-time major winner Tiger Woods will make his first start on the PGA Tour in 10 months when he tees off at his own Genesis Invitational. Tensions between the U.S. and China is not stopping America from being considered a favored destination by Chinese citizens. New data reveals that in the last 1 year alone, illegal immigration by Chinese people to the United States has increased 10 times. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection says over 37,000 Chinese illegal immigrants were detained at the U.S. border through Mexico last year. It added that Chinese migrants are the fastest growing group behind the migrant influx at the southern border in 2023. The journey taken by Chinese migrants is not an easy one. They fly to Ecuador, then travel by foot, boat, and bus through South and Central America to the U.S.-Mexico border. However, Chinese migrants make up only 1.5% of the 2.5 million immigrants encountered by border officials in 2023. Media reports say that several Chinese migrants make the long journey to escape China's authoritarian government and slow economy. The other segment is Chinese students, for whom U.S. universities are their top destination. Asians are the fastest growing racial or ethnic group in the United States. One of the largest within the group is the 5 million people of Chinese origin living in the United States. Meanwhile, the U.S. state of Florida has banned citizens from China and elsewhere and other U.S. adversary countries from purchasing properties. It has also prohibited universities within the state from partnering with China and other nations labeled as foreign country of concern. Okay, for more on this, we are now being joined by our guest, Greg Swenson, international affairs expert. He's joining us live from London right now. Greg, thank you so much for coming back to WION, and good to see you.
Thanks, Susan.
There is a growing concern about national security threats with these Chinese individuals coming into the United States. Most of them are single male military age. Some believe that they're coming for the elusive American dream. Others are extremely concerned that they're tied to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Americans themselves are facing a cost of living squeeze on the one hand. These migrants are coming on the other. How do you look at this?
Yeah, it's a really big issue, Susan, and I think there's some legitimacy to that concern that these individuals coming from China are either involved with the CCP or they're bringing fentanyl. There were 28,000 pounds of fentanyl caught at the border last year. And, that's just what was caught. So, these are legitimate concerns. If they, the United States welcomes legal immigrants. We love Chinese immigrants. They're productive. They're great people. But I think that the concern is quite legit that coming illegally is never a good thing, and the border is completely out of hand. It's turned into a humanitarian crisis, and there is much concern from a lot of the former FBI and other intelligence officials about the Chinese immigration coming through Ecuador and Mexico.
And can you talk a little bit about the underground industry and helping migrants flee China to the United States? We do know that ultimately it's these cartels that are winning on the border, but then this really long travel from China to the United States.
It's a really difficult journey, that's for sure. And all the migrants that are coming from the Triangle in Central America, from Honduras and Ecuador, it's a really difficult journey. The border has basically been turned over by the Biden administration to the human traffickers, to the drug cartels and the human trafficking cartels. So it's really a humanitarian crisis. It's sad to see. And many of these people are victims of much abuse, including the human trafficking. So, it's not that I feel sorry for the victims, but by opening the border and announcing to the world that the border was open, which is what Biden did in 2021, even before he took office, the migrants started moving north toward the border as soon as he won the election. So, this is a complete humanitarian disaster. We had averaging 40,000 or so illegal migrants crossing the border per month in the 9 years before Biden took office. Since he took office, it's gone up to 200,000 a month on average over the last 3 years. But it was over 300,000 just in December of 23, only a few months ago. So, look, there's so much that can go wrong here. You've had 170 illegal migrants were found to be on the terrorist watch list. You had 35,000 with criminal records, 500 and almost 600 known gang members. So, and then I mentioned the fentanyl earlier. That's mostly coming from China. So there's every reason to think that that fentanyl is coming through these Chinese illegal migrants. And sometimes it just gets to the border, and any migrant can take it over the border. So, these are real issues, and this is why illegal migration, or specifically the open border from the Biden administration, is the number one issue for American voters, not just in border states, but recently with the elections in New Hampshire and Iowa, you saw it elevate to the number one issue, sometimes number two, to the economy. So this idea from the open border left that more is better and less is racist is just not only wrong, but it's really immoral for what's happening with the migrants and the human traffickers at the border.
Yeah, I mean, not surprisingly, every state is a border state at this point. As you mentioned, it's not just Texas and those states around the southern border. Greg Swenson, thank you so much for joining us on WION this morning and for that thorough analysis. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
You too. Thanks again.
Amid the rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific, the U.S. is likely to deploy nearly half of its aircraft carriers in the Western Pacific this year. Military analysts see this as a counter to the increasing military activity in the region by China and North Korea. There are currently 3 U.S. aircraft carriers in the Western Pacific Ocean, and 2 more are scheduled to arrive, marking the first time that the 5 of the 11-strong carrier contingent will operate in the region. According to reports, the USS Abraham Lincoln was spotted heading out of its home port in San Diego and sailing towards the Western Pacific on February 5th. The USS George Washington is also expected to be deployed in the region in a bid to replace the USS Ronald Reagan, which will be relocated. In addition to the USS Ronald Reagan, the USS Carl Vinson has been stationed in Guam, and the USS Theodore Roosevelt in Hawaii. Both are expected to stay in the Western Pacific till April and July, respectively. Analysts say the surge in carrier deployments is designed to reassure regional allies and partners and deter adversaries like China and North Korea. Washington's show of strength comes as China ramps up military activity near the Taiwan Strait. Remember, the U.S. is opposed to Beijing's attempt to take Taiwan by force and is committed to supplying arms to Taipei. Tensions in the South China Sea and Pyongyang's growing activity in the region also pose concerns for the U.S. Analysts say that Washington's move is aimed at significantly and signaling its ability to work on several fronts and tackle multiple strategic hotspots. Moving on, you may remember that days ago, a U.S. strike blew up a car in Baghdad, killing a high-ranking commander of the Khatib Hezbollah militia. The U.S. military said the strike killed Abu Bakr al-Sadi, the commander of Khatib Hezbollah's operations in Syria. Washington said that he was responsible for directly planning and participating in the attacks against U.S. troops. Here's how the U.S. killed the militant with a secret missile that aims to kill only terrorists and not nearby civilians. Experts and others familiar with the counterterrorism operations said that the highly secretive Hellfire R9X is indicated in the attack. The missile is known by various nicknames, including the knife bomb or the flying Jinsu. Officials believe the R9X is less likely to cause civilian casualties because instead of exploding, it cuts through targets with sharp blades. Unlike other models of the Hellfire, the R9X doesn't carry an explosive payload. Instead, it has 6 rotating blades that emerge on its final approach to the target. One of their utilities in opening up vehicles and other obstructions to get to the target without using an explosive warhead. So how does the missile reach its target? The missiles are launched from the Hellfire armed drones. Following the launch, the blades are retracted during the flight. The R9X missile then uses its kinetic force and blades to eliminate the target. In 2022, R9X missiles killed Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri while he stood on a balcony at his home in downtown Kabul. At least least one person has been killed and 22 others are reported injured at a shooting in Kansas City, Missouri, where the NFL champion, the Chiefs, were celebrating their Super Bowl victory. Terrified fans were seen frantically scrambling for cover, and according to police, the barrage of gunshots were fired outside a garage near the station. It came at the end of the victory rally following a parade. We're learning now that at least 8 children were among the 22 injured. Hours after the bloodshed, authorities are still sorting out the numbers and details of casualties.
The parade had just wrapped up and we had brought an Uber. We took an Uber so that we wouldn't have to park. We're from Kansas City, but we flew in yesterday from New Hampshire just for the parade. And we were headed back to the direction where the Uber had dropped us off when all of a sudden people started crushing forward. Everybody started running. There was screaming. We didn't know what was happening, but this day and age when people run, you run. And so I put my arms around her and we tried to push through so people wouldn't run on top of us.
Video shows police running through the crowd as the parade attendees hurriedly scrambled for safety. There's footage online that appears to show fans tackling and capturing at least one of the suspects. Kansas City Police Chief has said that 3 people have been taken into custody as part of this investigation.
We do have 3 persons detained and under investigation for today's incident. We are working to determine if one of the 3 are the one that was in that video where fans assisted police.
The National Football League has confirmed that all of its Chiefs players, coaches, and staff who attended the victory rally are safe. Among the dead was Lisa Lopez Galvin, a local DJ and mother of 2 who was fatally shot during the event. Loved ones have hailed her as a beautiful person who was kind, always caring, calling, and checking on family. Last year saw a shooting in Denver after the Nuggets winning an NBA championship and gunfire at a parking lot near the Texas Rangers World Series championship parade. In a statement issued by the White House after the Kansas shooting, President Joe Biden said, quote, "Today's event should move us all, shock us, and shame us into acting." Vice President Kamala Harris also expressed concern over the surge in gun violence.
Community leaders, these advocates, these fighters for human rights and for the dignity of all.
So today was supposed to be a day of celebration for a community of people to come together and feel a sense of joy. And yet it is another day where America has experienced senseless gun violence. You know, gun violence is the #1 cause of death for the children of America. Not some form of illness or car accidents, gun violence. And the reality of it is a lot of this can be prevented if members of legislators, including the United States Congress, just have the courage to act with reasonable gun safety law.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved the first ever treatment to treat severe frostbites in adults. The medicine will considerably reduce the risk of amputation. Sold under the brand name R-Lumen, it is expected to be available in the spring of 2024. Frostbite is when your skin and tissue freeze because of extreme cold. It can happen in different stages. Sometimes it's mild and doesn't need medical help, but severe cases might need even amputation. A controlled trial indicated that iloprost, a vasodilator, helped treat the severe frostbite. Scientists gave iloprost to some patients with severe frostbites. Others got different medicine for frostbite. After a week, they checked if anyone needed to have a finger or toe removed. On day 7, it was found that none of the patients received iloprost alone needed amputation, compared to the patients who were on medications unapproved for frostbite. Although its pricing has not yet been determined, the company said that in an email statement that the FDA has approved iloprost as the first treatment for severe frostbite. This is good news because now doctors have a better way to help people with frostbite, one that leaves their fingers and toes intact. Iloprost, however, can have side effects like headache, dizziness, fast heart rates, nausea, dizziness, and hypertension. And moving on into the world of sports, where Tiger Woods returns to competitive golf later this year at the Genesis Invitational in Los Angeles, California. It's his first start on the PGA Tour since the Masters last April. And as always, he believes that he can win again. He is a 15-time major winner after all. Woods is wearing many hats at the moment. He's an active golfer, an inspiration, a host, and also the most powerful person on the PGA Tour.